Mississippi native African-American female civil rights activist. Mrs. Fannie Lou Hamer rose from humble beginnings in the Mississippi Delta to become one of the most important, passionate, and powerful voices of the civil and voting rights movements, and a leader in the efforts for greater economic opportunities for African Americans. As the 20th and last child of her parents, who were sharecroppers, she grew up in poverty, and at age 6, Hamer joined her family picking cotton. By age 12, she left school to work. In 1944, she married Perry Hamer, and the couple labored on a Mississippi plantation. Because Hamer was the only worker who could read and write, she also served as plantation timekeeper. In 1961, Hamer received a hysterectomy by a white doctor without her consent, while undergoing surgery to remove a uterine tumor. Unable to have children of their own, the Hamers adopted 2 daughters. On August 31st, 1962, Hamer led 17 volunteers to register to vote at an Indianola, Mississippi courthouse. Denied the right to vote due to an unfair literacy test, the group was harassed on their way home when the police stopped their bus and fined them $100 because the bus they were riding on was too yellow. That night, Hamer was fired from her job because of her attempt to vote. In June 1963, after successfully registering to vote, Hamer and several other black women were arrested for sitting in a whites-only bus station restaurant in Charleston, South Carolina. At the jailhouse, she and several of the women were brutally beaten, leaving Hamer with lifelong injuries from a blood clot in her eye, kidney, and leg damage. In 1964, Hamer's national reputation soared as she co-founded the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party, which challenged the local Democratic Party's efforts to block black participation. One man, one vote. Hamer and other party members went to the Democratic National Convention that year, arguing to be recognized as the official delegation. When Hamer spoke before the Credentials Committee, calling for all mandatory integrated state delegations for airtime, President Lyndon B. Johnson held a televised press conference so she would not get any television time. But her speech, with its heartbreaking descriptions for racial prejudice in the South, was later televised. By 1968, Hamer's vision for racial equality in delegations had become a reality as Hamer became a member of the Mississippi's first integrated delegation. Today, I would like to recite Mrs. Fannie Lou Hamer's testimony at the 1964 Democratic National Convention.
Democratic National Convention is now called into session. As chairman, I would like to bring Mrs. Fannie Lou Hamer forward. Mrs. Hamer, please proceed.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, and to the Credentials Committee, my name is Mrs. Fannie Lou Hamer, and I live at 626 East Lafayette Street, Ruleville, Mississippi, Sunflower County, the home of Senator James O. Easterland and Senator Stennis. It was the 31st of August, 1962, that 18 of us traveled 26 miles to the county courthouse in Indianola and tried to register to become first-class citizens. We were met in Indianola by city police and state highway patrolmen, and they only allowed 2 of us in to take the literacy test at the time. After we had taken this test and started back to Ruleville, we were met by the city police and state highway patrolmen and carried back to Indianola, where the bus driver was charged that day with driving a bus the wrong color. After we had paid the fine among us and started back to Ruleville, I was met there by Reverend Jeff Sonny, who carried me 4 miles into the rural area where I worked as a timekeeper and sharecropper for 18 years. I was met there by my children, who told me that the plantation owner was angry because I'd gone down to try to register. By then, my husband came and said that the plantation owner was raising Cain because I'd gone to register. Now, before he could quit talking, the plantation owner came. Said, "Fannie Lou, do you know, did Pat tell you what I said?" And I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Well, I mean that. He said, if you don't go down and withdraw your registration, you won't have to leave here." Said, "And if you go down and withdraw your registration, said you still may have to leave here because we're not ready for that here in Mississippi." I addressed him and I said, "Sir, I didn't try to register for you. I tried to register for myself. You know, I had to leave that same night. On June the 9th, 1962, 16 bullets was fired into the home of Mr. and Mrs. Robert Tucker for me. That same night, 2 girls were shot in Rubeville. Also, Mr. Joe McDonald's house was shot in. On June the 9th, 1963, I was on my way back to Mississippi from a voter registration workshop. 10 of us was traveling by the Continental Trailway bus. And when we got to Winona, Mississippi, which is Montgomery County, 4 of the people got off of the bus. 2 to use the washroom and 2 for the restaurant. Now, the 2 that had gone into the restaurant had gotten ordered out. Now, at the time, I was on the bus, but when I saw that they got ordered out, I got off of the bus to see what was happening. And one of the ladies said, it was the state highway patrolman ordered us out. Well, I got back on the bus, and she got back on the bus, too. But as soon as I could get seated, I saw that they began to put them in the back of the highway patrolman's car. So I got back off of the bus to see what was happening. And I could hear someone say, get that one there. I was put in the back of the highway patrolman's car, and he told me that I was under arrest, and he kicked me. I was carried to the county jail and put into a booking room. Some of us were in booking rooms and began to place the rest of us in cells. I was placed in a cell with a young woman by the name of Miss Yvesta Simpson. When I was in that cell, I could hear sounds of licks and screams, sounds of licks and horrible screams, and I would hear someone say, can you say yes, sir, Negro? Can you say yes, sir? And they would say other horrible things. She said, yes, I can say yes, sir. He said, say it. She said, I don't know you well enough. Oh, they beat her I don't know how long. And she just began to pray and ask God to have mercy on these people. Wasn't too long before 3 white men came to my cell. One of them was state highway patrolman. He said, where are you from? And I said, Rubeville. He said, we're going to have to check that. It wasn't too long before he came back and said, you from Rubeville, all right? And he used a curse word. He said, I'm going to make you wish you were dead. Then he carried me into another cell with 2 Negro prisoners. State highway patrolman ordered the first Negro to take the blackjack. The first Negro ordered me, by orders of the state highway patrolman, to lay on the bunk bed on my face. I laid on the bunk bed and the first Negro prisoner began to beat me. I had my hand behind my back on the left side because I suffered from polio when I was 6 years old. The first Negro prisoner beat me till he was exhausted. Then he ordered the second Negro prisoner to beat me. And I began to work my feet. And the state highway patrolman ordered the first Negro prisoner to sit on my feet to keep me from working my feet. And I would yell, and one of the white men would hit me in my head to make me be quiet. My dress would work up. I pulled my dress down and he'd pull it back up. I was in jail when Mega Elvis was murdered. All of this on to account that we want to register to become first-class citizens. And if the Freedom Democratic Party is not seated now, I question America. Is this America, land of the free and home of the brave, where we have to sleep with our telephones off the hooks because our lives be threatened daily? Because we want to be treated as decent human beings in America. Oh, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. Because nobody's free until all of us are free.